So lesson 1, you're going to learn how to recognize your emotional pain. We're going to actually validate your anger, pain, and unhappiness, that it's real, okay, and it's justified. Because I found, like, when I was going through my healing process, a lot of times people say, oh, Rita, you know, that's just family. That's just how they are. Get over it. And that used to make me so mad, because it was saying that all the pain I was feeling was dismissed, wasn't important, and it was all in my head, and I should ignore it. And that in itself is so hurtful. So the very first lesson of stage 1, lesson 1 is recognizing that you are in pain. And we're going to talk about that. All right. Lesson 2, we're going to talk about why we need our parents' love. Why it's so important for us to be nurtured, feel important, validated, and loved by our parents. All right? And this is very important, because this is why we keep going back and going back and going back. Okay? There's a reason for it. Lesson number 3, we're going to talk about why you feel unloved. All right? And we're going to sort of put the light on your parent. We're going to talk about their unhappiness, okay? And their inability to love you, all right? So, of course, if they don't feel loved, it's impossible for them to love you. So we're going to talk about that in lesson 3, okay? Lesson 4, week 4, why we get comfortable with our pain, all right? Our comfort zone. We're going to talk a lot about being comfortable with it. Even though it's painful, we're not willing to step outside the comfort zone because it's familiar to us, okay? And we're going to talk a lot about why it's familiar and what we need to do to change, okay? To embrace change. And that we'll talk a lot about, you know, you have to embrace change, or you're going to stay comfortable in the pain. So we'll talk about that. Lesson 5, we're going to talk about, this is my favorite, emotional triggers, all right? Or better known as hot buttons. What sets you off? You know, why do you get reactive? You know, because that's your weak point. Your emotional trigger is your weak point. The thing that makes you mad, makes you sad, makes you cry, that's the part we have to heal. Okay? Because when you heal those emotional triggers, if anyone says anything negative about you, you'll no longer be affected. It's unbelievable, okay? Because you're almost immune to it now, because you no longer feel the pain, okay? It's kind of like having a bruise. As long as you have the bruise, every time I press it, you're going to go, ouch. So we have to heal that bruise, so when I press it, nothing. All right, so that's emotional triggers. All right, then lesson 6, we're going to start to talk about what I do well and how it connects to this healing. It's called Energy 101. All right, we're going to talk about how energy is everything and how it impacts your whole health, particularly your emotional health. And we're going to talk about that because that's a secret weapon. The secret weapon is having high energy, because that's where love lives. If you notice, when you're depressed, even when you're angry, it takes a lot of energy to be angry every day, okay? But when we're in a place of love, we have more energy, we're lighter, we feel more relaxed. So I'm going to talk a lot about energy in lesson 6 and how it affects your emotional health and why you need it, okay? Because that's really what, okay, I won't give it away. So lesson 7, we're going to talk about energy vampires. And if you don't know what an energy vampire is, it's your parent or the other family member who's driving you nuts. They're also known as narcissists, okay, egomaniacs, bullies, right, victims. They come in all shapes and sizes. So in lesson 7, we're going to talk about everything you need to know about energy vampires. Why they've picked you, why they're bullying you, why they're attracted to your energy, and what you're doing to keep baiting them, and you're not even aware of it, okay? So that's going to start to empower you a little bit on how to deal with your energy vampire, probably your parent, okay? It's unbelievable. Once you know this information, it's going to help you so much, okay? Because there's so much to know about energy vampires, and that's the biggest challenge that a lot of people will ask me about. Rita, how do I get the monkey off my back? And, you know, what do I do to get this person to just leave me alone? You know, so that's why I'm dedicating 2 weeks to energy vampires, okay? Because there's a lot of information, there's a lot you need to know, and I don't want to overwhelm you, and I don't want to cram it all in. So lesson 8 is about energy vampires part 2, okay? And we're going to talk about the different kinds of energy vampires, what your parent might be, so that you can recognize, you know, what's going on, how to avoid them, what to do to protect yourself. Okay, so that's lesson 8. Lesson 9, we're going to talk about family obligation and loyalty. Okay, where we feel, you know what, that's my parents, I feel like a bad child if I do this, I feel horrible if I do that. So, you know, we're going to talk about that family loyalty, why you feel it, the cultural beliefs, you know, the things that have been downloaded into our head, telling us to put up with this stuff, you know, telling us that, you know what, we don't have the right to challenge our parents. And now I'm not saying that this is not, let me set this straight right now. This is not about beat up my parents. This is not to do with this program is about you healing yourself, getting happy again, and remembering who you are and learning how to live that authentic life. That's what I'm going to help you do. As far as other people go, again, we can't control other people, but we can protect ourselves from negative people, okay? Even if they're in our families. Now, I don't know if you know this about me. Hello, everybody. How are we doing out there? Give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're okay. All right? I walked away from a whole family, including a twin sister. All right? That's what I had to do to stay healthy. Okay? And I look back now, I don't harbor any anger, resentment, or bitterness. It took a long time for me to forgive them. Okay? And I could tell you as a healer, you're not ready to forgive until you do the self-healing work. Until you're in a place of peace yourself, you can't forgive. I've heard a lot of people say, oh yeah, my parent passed away, I've forgiven them, or whatever. And then as soon as I mention their parent, they're angry again. That's not forgiveness, okay? Even if they've crossed over, it doesn't matter. You still need to do the healing work because everything still lives in your head, okay? So there's still a lot of pain and mental issues that are going on in our heads that keep us unhealthy and unhappy. So even if your parent has passed away, we still need to do this healing work, okay? Does that make sense? Perfect. Okay. So yeah, so lesson 9 is about family obligation and loyalty, why we feel it and how to overcome it, okay? In order to give yourself permission to do this healing work guilt-free, okay? Because there's a lot of guilt and shaming. I remember I felt really bad about myself, like, especially when I wrote my book, exposing my family. It was the hardest thing I ever did, okay? But if you're not honest with yourself, you can't heal. I'll be straight up about it. You have to be willing to be honest with yourself and what's going on. If you want to stick your head in the sand and pretend and go, la, 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 I don't want to hear about it, this course isn't for you. This course is about being honest, that this is really happening, I'm really not happy, and I need some help, okay? That's the first step, Okay. Finally, week 10 is called Why You Need to Stop. I touched on it. Why you need to stop waiting for your parent to change. Okay. You know, it's basically, it's going to be dedicated to denial. All right. Why we just make excuses and just keep hoping and wishing and praying that they're going to change so we could be happy. Doesn't work that way. The only way you're going to be happy is that you need to change. Okay? Because like I said earlier in the beginning of this video, you're the only one you can control is yourself. Nobody else. Not your parents, not your siblings, not your husband, not your wife, not your friends, nobody but you. Okay? And don't forget, the relationship you have with yourself is your most important relationship in your life. And I speak as a mother of 3 children and 1 grandchild. That if I don't love myself, I got nothing to give them. Okay? And remember, every morning and every night, you wake up with you. Right? You go to the bathroom, there you are. You can never escape yourself. Right? So you may as well get to love who you are, because that's the only way your life's going to get better. Okay? You have to